Open the mic, baby. Dig it, baby. Gloriously unprepared. Taking a virtual tope. Mastering the brain waves. Oh, totally breakthrough beating buddies technology. We are here at Stand and Slam. Just totally closing our eyes and taking the tope. Gloriously unprepared, as I said. This is Vandal Drummond. I'm here with Alfredo Esparza, the mechanic of the show. The guy who runs this thing. How you doing, Fredo?
Pretty good. Are you going to purposely mispronounce the name of the show every week?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm going to try to master a new way to butcher the name of our own show every week.
It works. It's perfectly fine by me. So.
What did I say tonight? Did I say Stan and Slam?
You said Stan Slam.
Stan Slam. Oh, I like that.
Which is actually totally different, though.
Yeah, I was not. Wow.
I think that's like the third way you've pronounced the show, or you've like.
Not only was I gloriously unprepared, as I already said twice, but I totally, rearranged the name of the show, and I did not even realize how I went about it this time. I mean, I wouldn't have even guessed that I actually left out a full syllable.
You know how I was telling you how there's really not a lot to talk about, and then all of a sudden I'm reading through the Wrestling Observer newsletter.
Oh yes, is there something suddenly that's perking your imagination?
No, it's just really long. I mean, I can't remember it being as long as it is this time. Like holy shit, I'm not gonna. It's like a freaking book, man.
Yeah, well, now let me ask you. A lot of people read it online now. A lot of people still take the newsletter. Which is it for you?
I read it online.
Yeah, I was doing that for a while, but for some reason I realized I'll never sit down and read the whole thing online, so I resubscribed. I like having the physical newsletter there and going out, grabbing me a big-ass soft taco at Pepe's in Brea, and just taking my sweet time reading the newsletter there. For some reason, I guess I'm old-fashioned. I still love having the actual ink and print in front of me.
Well, I think it's because you also read a little more than I do of the Observer newsletter.
Probably. I usually read the main stories. I like to read what's happening in CMLL AAA.
Yeah. And you read a little bit of the mixed martial arts, too.
Yes, I do. Yes, I kind of scan over the mixed martial arts. I keep wishing, and people will think I'm foolish for doing this, but I keep scanning the Japan sections, hoping there will be some new tidbit of Japanese women's wrestling news in there, even though I know it is not exactly in season these years.
It's not in the other Japan news section?
There might be an occasional mention, but...
One sentence?
Yeah, I'm getting really nostalgic. I have a bad habit of doing that. I'm thinking back to those glorious early 90s Bull Nakano Aja Kong days and Manami Toyota. And I don't feel like watching the old tapes of those old classic matches like Bull Nakano doing that great leg drop from the top of the cage before anybody else was trying to copy that spot. But I am craving watching some current Japanese women's wrestling, and, my hunch is probably it's for null. It's probably not exactly in its glory days.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen that much of it lately. I kind of stopped watching it after, probably 2004. Yeah. I'm
oddly nostalgic in that I am reading the freakiest book. I am reading. Now, only people my age or older are probably going to recognize this right off the top of the head, but I'm reading Jacqueline Suzanne's Once Is Not Enough. Now, this was a book that used to lay around my house as I was growing up. I think my mother was reading it. And the only reason I remember the book is I was 11 years old, and on the cover was a nude woman, the back of a nude woman spray-painted gold like an Oscar. And when you're 11 years old and your hormones are starting to kick in, you remember these things.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, for those who don't know who Jacqueline Suzanne was, this lady was a wonderful nut job. She was one of these ladies who, I believe in the 40s and 50s, was trying to get into show business, and I guess really saw what a seedy, grimy place the glamorous world of showbiz was. And she married a guy a lot older than her and from the biographies I've read of her on the internet, it sounds like they were fond of each other, but she married him more because he could help her get places. And she started writing these novels that, while they look probably tame in this day and age, back in the 60s and 70s, these were considered like just, trashy and pornographic.
Did they make a movie out of this?
They did, yes, in the mid-70s.
I saw the movie.
Yeah, what she is best well known for is she wrote Valley of the Dolls.
Oh, okay. Which
is a kind of a camp classic. I think she wrote it in 1967, and the summer it came out, I remember my family saying it seemed like everybody and their brother had a copy of this book, of Valley of the Dolls. Kind of like when I was a teenager in the 1970s, when Fleetwood Mac Rumors came out, everybody had the album Rumors, no matter what kind of music they were into. It's like you walked into somebody's house, there was the Fleetwood Mac album with, I think it was Mick Fleetwood and Stevie Nicks on the cover pretending to be ballerinas or some shit. And I bought this book on a whim because I remember saying, so this is what my mom read, this is what her friends read. Okay, what's the scoop with this? And it is a kick reading this woman's literature because the characters are all either pathetic or scumbags or both.
Uh-huh.
You don't empathize with any of them. You don't sympathize with any of them. The writing, her actual writing, her prose is so-so, but yet you can't put this book down.
Wow.
Now, not only do I sound nostalgic, but I probably sound like the ultimate queen. Reading a book about showbiz scumbags, written by this, wild lady of the 60s.
Kurt, let's not forget, you are the gay Buddy Wayne.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for reminding me that. That makes me actually feel redeemed.
Yeah.
Not redeemed, but confirmed. It's awesome. I'm a raging heterosexual. I admit it. I love ABBA. I love the Village People. I also love my wife very much. And I am hot for her, yes. So.
And you like to wrestle as an exotico. So.
Exactly. I love wrestling as an exotico. Pink is my favorite color. Or is it violet? Well, either way, whichever one I pick, that makes me pretty raging. So anyway, I just thought I'd show that a little piece of literature. If you guys want to ever look at a kind of cute history of America's pop literature in the 60s and how people kind of saw the seedy underworld of show business, I do recommend this lady's work.
Kind of sounds like the Conan Jay Leno situation.
Now that is fascinating. I don't even watch the shows anymore, but
there's probably going to be another movie out at some point on that.
Oh, that's right. You're referring to the old movie that was made about the Jay Leno David Letterman feud.
Except this time they can add Conan and Jimmy Kimmel and all those other guys.
That would be great. It would go from a two-man battle to a battle royal.
Yeah, everybody ganging up on Jay Leno. It's actually NBC who's pretty much screwing Conan out of there.
Yeah, that's a shame because Conan is my favorite of the late-night folks. I don't think his show's been as strong lately when I've seen it.
Well, because you know what it is? I think when Conan was on later, he had different, I don't know, I always enjoyed his, not the guest, the stuff he would do.
It was a little edgier.
Yeah.
Remember, you and I used to watch this. I remember I watched it a few times at your house. Frankenstein Wastes a Minute of Our Time.
Yeah.
That was a great feature he did, how Frankenstein would come and just waste a minute of time on Conan's show. And
the masturbating bear.
The masturbating bear, that was awesome. That was awesome. And
you can't do that now at 10, what is it, 11:30?
Yeah, he's been homogenized, so to speak.
The guy I kind of like is Craig Ferguson.
Who's that?
Craig Ferguson, the guy right after.
I only seen him a few times, but that guy is awesome. He's the kind of guy you would actually love to sit down, have dinner with and have him tell you stories.
Yeah, I've actually seen him more not on that show than on that show when he's appearing somewhere else. or like doing something else, I'll see him more often on that.
He's a late night show host. I don't know, he reminds me a bit of Johnny Carson in that even if for some reason he wasn't funny, I could still sit back and just listen to him talk. He has a very down-home way about him that I like.
Yeah, and plus he was on Drew Carey's show, so.
Oh, yes, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Wasn't he the boss?
I totally forgot about that.
They had a good cast, that show.
So, nix the nostalgia. My memory is going. I don't even remember what I saw on the Drew Carey show 10 years ago.
Now we got to talk about wrestling.
Now we have to talk about wrestling, and I think you and I have both watched a little bit of several shows, but just like last week, I don't think we've watched an entire show of anything.
Well, I just watched the Mike Tyson, like the segments with Mike Tyson. Everything.
How was that?
Was like, well, first of all, he looked nervous, or he didn't look nervous. He just didn't seem that prepared, or I don't know. I mean, I guess he did look nervous, but it didn't look that good.
Oh, that's a shame.
That whole thing, although
not surprising.
And then they have Hornswaggle on there too at the end with DX. Just like, God, come on, seriously.
Oh wow. Yeah, sounds like they're well. I don't know what it sounds like they're doing.
I don't want to sound like Carl Stern and start sounding like I hate this stuff and it's too cartoonish and all that stuff, but I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Could you speak up, Fredo? I couldn't hear you.
I don't want to sound like Carl Stern and start talking about how cartoonish it is.
Oh yes. But, you see, I love camp. I love cartoonish. I also like old school, but that has nothing to do with it. It's just written up badly. It's performed badly most of the time.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit, I get a kick out of Hornswaggle. I think he's a fun character, but it's almost like they're thinking, okay, what do we do with him this week? And they just kind of throw him out there, and it's like, okay, whatever. Oh, let's have him wrestle Chavo again.
Well, now they have him with DX, so.
Yeah, which is a clever idea, but I think that's going to run its course quickly, too.
Yeah, I just think it's funny how Chris Jericho is just, like, he's losing more often now than, I don't know. It's not. I really don't care about wins or losses, but it just seems really, it just kind of killed the steam off of Jericho now.
It does, and it's terrible storytelling, too. It's like when you have a stipulation of, if you lose, you can't be on the show next week.
Yeah. And
he's on the show next week. And I know stipulations are never clung to very tightly, but it would make better storytelling if they did. It would just be better storytelling.
Yeah. I mean...
Now, you were telling me also you saw part of TNA, right?
Yeah, I figured it was on at like 6 or something. And I tuned in like 5 minutes after it started, but I watched like the first 25 minutes from that. It was all right. It was Young Bucks versus Motor City Machine Guns. That was pretty good.
Oh, how did the Young Bucks look on their first? Was that their first TNA appearance?
Yeah, they look pretty good. They changed their outfits and they changed their names. I think that now it's Generation Me, Max, and Jeremy or something like that.
Oh dear.
And they have like these weird like pants with like handkerchiefs hanging out of their pocket,
But like the Rock and Roll Express?
No, it's a handkerchief, just that handkerchief coming out of a pocket, out of their pocket, like one of their pockets.
Oh dear.
Like a purple handkerchief. I don't know what they're trying to go with. I didn't see the beginning of I didn't see them intro. Like walk in, I didn't see that. But it just
and I love the Young Bucks gimmick so much. I thought that was a great gimmick.
Well, I thought they needed new outfits, because they kind of did look indie level, but I mean.
But did they go to the ring to doo-wop?
That's what they look like. I was like, are they doing like a? But they didn't have the hair. I was like, there's no way they're doing doo-wop. I mean, I was like, where's the handkerchief? It just seemed really weird, out of place.
Oh Lord.
And then the Generation Me thing, wouldn't that be like emo or something? Like that's the current generation. I mean.
It almost seems like if you put Generation in the name of a tag team, for some reason, it sounds like it's going to be doomed.
Yeah, because you just know it's going to end at some point, because, there's always a new generation of wrestling fans, like...
Right, exactly.
Like there's a whole generation, a whole different part of the country that was big on the Rock and Roll Express, but then when they came, like, to different parts of the country, it was like, I don't get it.
I remember vividly... In 1984, when NWA, I guess it was still at the time, was talking about touring California, and that was, when even though WWF was national at the time, there was still a big regional presence, and I heard people from other regions saying, boy, I bet the Rock and Roll Express is going to get over really well when they come to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, no. These guys might look cool in Georgia or Kentucky or Tennessee. They're going to get laughed out of the building in Los Angeles. I mean, that was the era of new wave and big hair metal. You know, the Rock and Roll Express, and I like the Rock and Roll Express a lot. I dug them as a tag team. But they reminded me of an adult who wants to dress up cool like the kids are today. I want to be groovy like the kids of today and, you know, miss the beat, you know, by a mile.
Yeah, it was like watching the 60s in the 80s, you know?
Yes, exactly.
And I was like, I was every time I would see them, I was like, I don't get it. Why are people liking them? They got like, because I mean, I could understand like the metal thing, like because the hair metal and all that stuff was big back then. But they weren't a hair metal band. They were like rock and roll, like they were coming
exactly. And their haircuts looked like somewhere a cross between a mullet and hair metal.
Yeah, and then when people would talk about Robert Gibson, you're like, is this guy supposed to get chicks? You know, does he get laid all the time?
Yeah.
You just couldn't believe it. It was like
exactly. The other one I remember I would see videos for the Fabulous Ones.
Yeah.
And these videos would be of, you know, little clips of them wrestling, but they would also have a lot of clips of them out in nature, like shirtless with tight blue jeans.
Yeah.
And I remember telling somebody, oh, if they come here, you know, the gay crowd, I think, would really dig their look. And people didn't know, you know, this was before, you know, this was the blossoming era of MTV, and a lot of people didn't realize that was a gay look here in California. They thought that's what the chicks, you know, would dig.
Uh-huh.
But when I said, no, I think the gay crowd would be more up their alley, and whenever I told people that, they didn't get it.
You know the funny thing, if you think about it nowadays, the Road Warriors were probably the gayer gimmick.
It's so true. I bet they had quite the following in that department.
Considering, remember how Rob Halford used to talk about how his whole attire was from the old biker, you know, those clubs.
Yes.
Blue Oyster and all that stuff.
That's right. Yeah, and he was somebody, I remember a lot of, you know, people I knew in the metal, you know, just didn't believe me when, you know, I said, yeah, Halford's gay. Because he didn't actually come out until I think about 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
But I knew somebody who was in a local metal band. God, this was like years ago, over 25 years ago. I shouldn't say I knew him. I met this guy, and he was talking about, yeah, I was backstage, and Rob Halford approached me. I was like, no way.
And you're like,
and
did you do it?
Everybody who was a Judas Priest fan, whenever I would tell them that, or, you know, one of my buddies, you know, would tell them that, people just would not believe it. Says, no way, do you hear the lyrics he writes? He writes about having sex with women. Yeah,
and then it turns out it's not really about him.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like all these, I mean, just from the titles, I mean, but the great thing was that his band actually was cool with it. You know, they weren't like...
And that's, yeah,
you know. And
that's cool. That's how it should be. One of the greatest things I heard Rob Halford, I remember heard Halford interviewed on NPR a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
And the coolest thing he said is they asked him what was his favorite book. And he said, the Thesaurus. Because he says he loves looking for new words, new descriptions to put in his songs, and the Thesaurus is the perfect place. You know, when you've run out of words to describe one thing, you know, you can always rely on that to, you know, make another word sound really, like, exotic and cool.
I just think every time I always just every time I see the Road Warriors, I always think of that. You know, it's so funny how if they would have been around, you know, the wrong area, they would have been just like over with the gay crowd for some odd reason. I always thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you watch any wrestling? Did you watch AAA?
You know, I did not watch this week's AAA. I watched the rest of the match between Cibernetico and Conan.
Yeah. And
from the week before.
And you just gave up on wrestling. You did. You gave up on wrestling, right?
No. You know what? I still want to tap out and say, okay, I'm giving up on wrestling, and I come close.
Yeah.
The Conan Cibernetico match, I guess somebody who's standing outside of the box, I was able to appreciate it, knowing, that Conan was in pretty bad health when he had the match, and they were able to make it get over with the crowd. Yeah, I'm certain, most people would say it was a dud of a match, but it seemed to get over with the crowd pretty well, so I can dig that. At the same time, I think if I was one of the paying audience and I went to see a card that was that huge, and that was how the co-main event was played out, I'd probably be, a little pissed.
So this week you'll be watching the 40-plus minute match between Messias and Dr. Wagner?
Now, have you seen that?
No, I haven't watched it.
Okay.
Then
I'll be surprised. Yeah. I did watch most of the last edition of Ras de Lona.
Yeah.
I watched it on my iPod at work. Now, normally I should be able to watch a 30-minute show at work, but work has been so crazy busy that I've had to use my iPod sparingly.
And you almost forgot to do the show, too.
I did. It was, as you know, last night I realized, oh, my God, it's Wednesday night. Tomorrow's our show. That's why I was going on that silly rant at the beginning of the show about being unprepared.
Yeah, but I read something this week, and I think we should get our guest on now. We have a special guest on.
We have a special guest on. Who is it?
I'm a special guest?
Yeah, you're the special guest this time.
When you said special guest, I thought that Dr. Lucha was on the line too.
Yeah, we had like a rep or something.
Usually you play the part of we have a caller on the line.
Yeah, but I went with special guest this time around.
This week, Bixie Demon will be playing the role of special guest.
Yeah, because I actually read your review on Babinsack's book.
Oh,
and so did I.
And it just, first of all, I think he's actually some sort of genius for actually trying to get people to pay to buy his, all his articles into, in a book. For some reason, I found that genius.
Well, according to Amazon, at least a couple people have, because they have that percentage. It's like people who look at this page eventually buy, and then it's 48% this book listed here, and then it's. But I try to figure out what the percentage is. Is it like people who buy something in the same session or what? I mean, it's a percentage, so it really doesn't mean anything, and we don't know how many people have looked at the page. So,
did it say what its ranking is?
Oh, the ranking was in the million, at least $1 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was thinking that while reading that, I was like, man, I wonder when Kurt's going to actually put all his StanDiEmbrio.com articles into book form.
Oh, probably sooner than you think, actually.
Stephen, I would pay for that.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, thank you. You guys rock. These guys are my friends. Now,
I didn't say I would pay for it, though.
Now, my good friend Hermester Barrington wrote a booklet.
Oh.
A booklet that was printed at Kinko's, but is available on Amazon.com, called Death Trap at La Puente, covering the Hair versus Mask match featuring Vandal Drummond versus Físico Nuclear. I think that book has sold a total of 3 copies, and when it sold 3 copies, it ranked at like 1,500,000 or something.
Okay, please post a link to that on the blog when you post the show link tomorrow.
Okay, I will. I will do that. And Hermester, I attest to Hermester's writing, and if any of you are wondering, no, Hermester Barrington is not my nom de plume. But it is actually a very brilliant man with a Ph.D. in something or another who wrote a very good fictional account of our match.
Dan Farron has a Ph.D.
He went to did he go to the same university as Dr. Lucha?
That's right. The University of Lucha in Tijuana, where he majored in luchology. Luchology. Only I can grant a PhD in luchology, because I thought up the name, and I haven't trademarked it yet, so now somebody else will probably do it.
Oh, great.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, and then I'll come up with another term that I can hand out a PhD in, and I will trademark that one before I tell anybody what it is.
Now, I want you guys to guess how long it took before I got an email from one Joe Babinsack.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. Are we talking hours or minutes?
I don't know exactly what time the article went up, but just try. It was yesterday. It was the same day the article went up.
I'm going to guess 3 hours.
Well, Fredo?
I'm going to guess less than that. Probably 2 hours.
Okay, well, I would guess, I don't know, well, I mean, the way their stuff works, it's already on the site, so I guess they maybe have a thing that goes up automatically to put the link up. Uh-huh. So I don't know when in the morning it goes up, but they're an East Coast-based site. I mean, it doesn't really matter since it's the Internet, but still. Let's say at the latest it would have gone up at 9. Uh-huh. I would say maybe 6 at the earliest, 9 at the latest. That's probably something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
12:45.
Wow.
And the main thing was that he wanted to let me know that he said very little of the columns not very few, very little of the columns in the book were freely available online. Uh-huh. And I have not gotten a response yet, but I told him, if you can give me a list, I will gladly revise and correct the article. I have not gotten a reply yet.
Oh, my Lord. And was that his main main statement?
In the email to me, yes. There was an email that he sent to someone else that I heard was longer, but but yeah, I mean, I have not heard back from him yet. And then in the latest Joe Babinsack column on WrestlingObserver.com, where he talks about the UFC title situation, he ends it with, Joe Babinsack, blah, 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 blah. He recommends Slam if you are looking for a book that is a collection of freely available Internet columns. Oh, burn.
I love it. A punchline to the whole thing.
Yes, and I'd just like to point out, Slam is available in stores. Joe Babinsack's book is only available on the Internet.
Oh, Lord.
And even now, if he sends me this list and I do revise and correct the review, I can say that, well, it will change it. It will not substantively change it.
I was going to say that's a very small matter to point out, when taking in the whole review, because you wrote a very extensive review of Babinsack's book, and the other review that sticks out in my mind is when you wrote the review of the Chris Benoit book by Irv Mushnick. And I must say, you do a very good job at doing a complex review. I mean, yeah, it's not, you don't do just this, black, white, try to balance it out. I like the way that you're very candid about it.
I actually think Bix should actually put that review in a book.
Exactly.
Make some money off of it,
Well, I am making some money off of it.
I know, but you could make some more. You could actually make some more if you actually put it in a book.
Well, I would guess that Slam owns it. I mean, I don't have a contract, but I would guess that they own it. I mean, I don't know. I would have to ask Greg Oliver about that.
Well, it's funny, when I review something, I tend to kind of, I wouldn't say I just either glow over the item or trash it, but I think you do a very good job of very specifically pointing out a book's strong points and its weak points, and how would I say, see the forest for the trees, so to speak. And especially with the Mushnick review, that was a really good one where you almost have to stand back and take a long look at what you're writing and pointing out both the strong points and the fallacies, especially for something like the Benoit situation. I haven't read Mushnick's book yet, but some of those would be a tricky read for me, especially a subject as heavy as the Benoit murders. I don't know if I'm making any sense, am I?
Yeah, I mean, it is honestly, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say it's light, but it is a quick read. I mean, obviously, a few years removed, it's different, but it's not like, remember the first Observer that came out about the murders?
Yes.
And it was like the heaviest thing you've ever read?
Oh, yes.
And it's, okay, here is how Chris Benoit graphically tortured himself to death, blah, blah, blah. It's, it has lots of the same details. I think, a lot of it is, I found I didn't have a problem reading it. Even if I ever look at that old Observer, it's still, that's still kind of...
I think there was nothing like anybody whether they knew Chris Benoit or, just followed his career, there was nothing like that week when it all went down. And I can't help but think what it was like for, whether it was Dave Meltzer or anybody else writing a story on it who actually knew Benoit, how difficult that must have been. You can say who wrote, a better article, who wrote less candid coverage, but it must have been difficult for everybody involved.
Yeah. And as far as, other people's reactions, the thing I've always said, if people bring it up, is I've always felt, and even to myself to some degree, that it seems like me and other people that it's hard to really, really just in your head still, I don't know, come to terms with, or what is the right way to put it, that Chris Benoit killed woman, killed their son, and then killed himself. And it's this, you know what I mean? It's not, fully processed.
Yeah, especially since he was the last person anybody expected to commit this kind of act. And I don't, I still have trouble watching a match involving Chris Benoit. I know there's a wide multitude of feelings. Some people have no problem with it, and I don't want to judge them, but I just feel too weirded out, especially since nobody will ever know exactly why he did it, but you can't help but think...
at least now we might actually get more... If you're tired of hearing about Chris Benoit, there's something new coming out pretty soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You haven't heard, right?
I have not heard.
I don't even know what you're talking about. But...
Rob Feinstein's doing a documentary on Chris Benoit.
Oh, yes, I did hear about that.
Oh, Feinstein's doing a documentary on Chris Benoit?
Well, his documentaries are usually, here are a bunch of shoot interview clips of people talking about this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he made a big deal. I guess he must have sent a press release to all the message boards and all those wrestling boards and all that.
Don't you love internet wrestling press releases?
Yes, I do, actually, in a weird, perverse way. And the way I was talking about reading the Jacqueline Suzanne Once Is Not Enough book, and talking about all the, how freaky it all is, I still can't turn away.
I get wrestling press releases for some odd reason. I don't even know why. I'm like, what is this?
One of the kicks I got was a few years ago. I don't even remember who it was, but somebody was going to work on a documentary on the history of XPW.
Oh, Jonathan Barber.
Is that who it was?
Okay.
I remember him.
Well, I have to correct you. It was not a documentary. It was a written retrospective. And you'd always get very angry for some reason if people thought it was a documentary. No, he was just doing this long written retrospective, which he never finished. But the stuff that's there now, which may not even... I don't even know if he gets up to the formation of XPW. It's, incredibly long. I think it's on Online World of Wrestling, is one of the places.
Well, I remember when it was in the preparation stages. I mean, I'm assuming this is the same guy, but he wrote a list... He wrote an announcement saying, this is going to be coming out. We are producing this. And here are a list of the people we have contacted.
Oh, yeah.
Not only did he praise the people who got back to him and did the interview, he wrote down who didn't respond or who refused an interview or who wanted money to conduct the interview. And at the end, he would write, very unprofessional.
Oh, God, what a dick.
I was doubled over reading that. I was laughing.
He is rather infamous in some circles. He ended up trolling Wikipedia and may still do it with various sock puppets because I guess in the Wikipedia entry on Vic Grimes, he did a move list, trademark moves, whatever, or he added or whatever, and he would add in the Wikipedia thing, written by Jonathan Barber, or compiled by Jonathan Barber. And, Wikipedia obviously has rules against, authorship, ownership, claims, etc.
Yes.
And he lost it over this. It was like, I compiled this move list. This is my work, knowing what moves this wrestler does. And he basically declared war on Wikipedia.
Oh Lord!
How many?
That reminds me of when I don't know if you guys know J. Michael Kenyon, the historian.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Oh, he is interesting.
Yeah, he's been compiling stuff. He's been researching wrestling since I was a teenager. I remember hearing his name when I was, I think, 17. And I can't remember the guy's name, but somebody got upset because he did a bunch of research of old newspapers from the 30s and 40s at a library. And J. Michael Kenyon put out a newsletter at the time, and he printed some of the information on this. And the person was upset and was actually accusing him of copyright infringement.
Oh.
Because he found his research.
Wait, when is this from that you're talking about?
This happened in the mid-'90s.
Okay, I'm thinking because this has happened more than once, but it was more legitimate the more recent time. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, this was somebody who got, and to be honest, J. Michael Kenyon probably already had the information for years. I mean, that guy had been doing, painstaking research, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's somebody who was just researching for about a year or so. And I mean, he got information from a newspaper and thought he had copyright to it. I mean,
yeah.
I love it.
Well, what
only in pro, only in pro wrestling. No, not only in pro wrestling, but
what happened a few years ago though was he would, also once he took it online, the whole Wrestling As You Liked It papers thing.
Mm-hmm.
He would, he'd post even recent articles, newspaper articles, which, nowadays in the internet and stuff, that's a little more dicey. And Scott Williams, I either emailed him or whatever and told him not to.
Uh-huh.
Because, paper's copyright, this is my job, please remove it. And I believe John Michael Kenyon threatened to take his ball and go home. And I know he tried to assert that he could do it, and that may have been one of the cases where he threatened to stop doing it and putting stuff together. I mean, at that point, he really was mostly doing current articles anyway.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty clear copyright infringement, because I do remember in one of his newsletters he reprinted my story on the local Mexican wrestling scene that was printed in Wrestling World, and personally I was jazzed that he put it on his website. I was tickled that he reprinted it, but, I don't know if Wrestling World would have felt the same way.
Yeah, wait a second. Why was he? I thought he always put up mainstream articles, too. Why would he put up one from Wrestling World?
I have no idea. Well,
what do you think? What do you think, KrisZ, not mainstream? Wrestling World isn't mainstream?
Well,
Wrestling World isn't even mainstream by the standards of Wrestling Magazine.
Well, I think that was part of it. I think most of the articles in Wrestling World were along the lines of, nobody fears everybody fears the Undertaker or something like that, where I actually wrote a history of the Los Angeles lucha scene. So I'm not trying to I'm not trying to sound cool or anything, but I am at the same time. I think it had a little more depth than some of the other articles. So
it was just out of place, right? Like your things was more something you would see like on on your website as opposed to like
yes, exactly,
PWI magazine.
Similar to the story I wrote on El Moro on my website.
Yeah.
I mean, it was some solid history, and that's really what J. Michael Kenyon dug for the most part.
I'm trying to remember. That's the one. That's Los Chivos' dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear the story about them and the Observer?
I'm sorry. Whose dad were you saying?
Los Chivos.
Oh no. Los Chivos' father was Chivo Garcia.
Oh, okay.
Who was a great heel, a great local worker. Boy, you never saw somebody who looked more like a wrestler than this guy. Just, the grizzled hands, the, broken nose, the tough-ass face. Little dude, but great worker. El Moro was the father of Superboy and Capitan Oro and
right.
One of the nicest guys you'd ever meet.
Now, did you hear that story about Los Chivos a couple years back after one of the, I think, Sports Arena shows that they did with that, it was like FMLL and some, half FMLL guys and half, extreme...
XPW guys?
Yeah, type guys.
I remember those shows. I don't know if I remember this anecdote.
It was in The Observer. They're walking out of the building, still in their masks, but wearing suits.
Yes.
A guy attempts to mug them. And
he tried to attempt to mug some masked wrestlers?
Yes, and they stop him and wait, and get the police and wait for the police to come, like a Santo movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Alfredo can back me up on this.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That happens all the time over here.
Yeah, and also, the other thing he can back me up on...
That they were mugged, or that they were... the suits that I thought was...
They were still wearing the masks. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I've seen Kayam without his mask. I have never, in my life, seen his brother, Enigma de Oro, without his mask on.
We even joke about it with Enigma de Oro that he never takes off his mask.
Yeah. In the dressing room, he never takes it off.
Even when he walks out, it's like he's always...
Yeah. From the minute he drives up to the wherever it is he's wrestling to going in the dressing room, he will not take his mask off. And he doesn't seem like a delusional character when you talk to him or anything. He's a nice guy, very friendly.
Yeah, the only thing I found weird was that his whole family wore masks, so, like his wife and his kids. that was a little bit going a little too overboard, wasn't that? Wouldn't that have been cool, though?
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
I actually would have, set up a website in praise of him if he actually, put the masks on his wife and his kid, and his pets.
Yeah, his pets, there you go.
Especially if they had reptiles.
Yeah.
Who was it that did that in, one of the after mags, in the 60s or 70s?
I think it was, I want to say The Claw. If I'm remembering correctly.
I want to say that I heard once it was a Dr. or Mr. X, so I'd wonder if maybe it was Dick Byer, but...
It could have been.
But
I want to say The Claw, but I might be wrong. I do remember actually seeing that when I was a little kid and just thinking, oh, what a trip this is.
I'm trying to remember. Who did it? Oh, was it Tom Andrews?
Tom Andrews was The Claw.
Yeah. Do you know the story about with him and Beauregard on Portland TV that got them in trouble?
No, I don't. I've never heard this.
This is one of those how times have changed stories, like Stampede getting kicked off TV because Mike DiBiase said if brains were dynamite, then the people of Calgary wouldn't be able to blow their nose.
Yes.
So this is 1970-ish, and it's the night before Easter, and Beauregard does a promo about how Claw is going to find and kill the Easter Bunny. And they had to apologize the next week.
Oh, and they actually did that on Portland?
Yeah.
Because they said some very racy stuff on Portland TV. That's hysterical that the Easter Bunny is where they went too far.
What's that one Buddy Rose promo on Matt Bourne that's on YouTube from the 80s? What is it that he calls him something? Calls him a prick or something.
I never heard about that. I remember the thing that had everybody in shock, at least people in the business, are when Playboy Buddy Rose and Dutch Savage actually had some legit heat with each other, and Dutch Savage actually called him Paul Pershman on TV.
And did everybody go, ooh?
Yeah, well, I know it pissed off Buddy Rose because years ago a friend of mine, Hal, used to occasionally give wrestlers rides from the airports, and he was driving Buddy Rose, I think, to the pantry, the steakhouse all the wrestlers ate at, and he said good-naturedly, so I'm excited to be taking Paul Pershman to the pantry, and he said Buddy Rose just looked like he saw a ghost or something. Said, how did you know that? How did you know my name's Paul Pershman? And he says, I've heard it from a number of people, and he just said, nobody is to know, you understand? I'm Playboy Buddy Rose.
It would have been better if he said, oh, I saw you wrestle with that name in Texas.
Yeah, he would have said, "Oh, that wasn't me."
Now,
A lot of old school guys actually used to do that. They would actually make claims like, "Oh, that wasn't me you saw."
Yeah, I mean, I understand wrestlers hating it when people call them by their real names. I don't like it as much when either they wrestled under their real... I don't understand as much if they wrestled under their real name or if they wrestled at least using their real first name.
Like, I think they felt it was a lot easier to conceal back then because there were very few people who, back then in Portland, who even knew that he ever wrestled in Texas.
Well, yeah, but right, I'm talking about also, like, nowadays, like...
nowadays that would be
Raven
silly.
hates it if people call him Scott. I mean, I understand it because it sounds like, oh, I met you, I'm your friend, but still, I can understand if you're going to address the person by name, and you know that his name is Scott, that you wouldn't want to say, so, Raven.
You won't get a better, you call him Scotty, though. If you call him Scotty, he'll be fine with it.
Scotty. Was he ever...
Scotty the Body.
I don't know if he was ever just Scott. I think it was always Scotty, right?
Yeah.
No, Scott Anthony. Scott Anthony was Scott.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's true.
Scotty the Body. I think even in Memphis he was Scotty Levy. Scotty Flamingo, but he was Scott. I think it was Scott Anthony.
You know, I think I've known like a lot of wrestlers, but I've never actually called them by their real names. I think Kurt is probably the only one, and Physical is probably the only other one. Besides,
I know. I'd love it if everybody called me Vandal, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, everybody else, like Ricky Ataki is Ricky Ataki.
Yeah, exactly.
Superboy,
exactly.
Superboy. Blue Panther was Blue Panther or Maestro, I
remember there was a guy who did a few shots for WWF when they'd come out California way back in the 80s, and he was pretty new to the business. He didn't read the sheets or anything, but when he was starting to do those shots, he said, "Hey, what's Dynamite Kid's real name?" And Ricky Ataki, and I say, "It's Tommy Billington." Okay, good. So it probably makes me look less like a mark if I call him Tommy. and we both tried to explain to him, no, actually, it makes you look like a complete mark if you say Tommy, because everybody else, and not knowing much about Dynamite Kid back then, I said he probably would have got his lights put out too if he called him Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, I always assumed you just call them by their wrestling name, or they have like a nickname or something.
Right.
Like Superboy, you don't call him Superboy, you call him Yo-Yo or Superboy. It's not.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right. I don't think I've ever called him Sergio.
Yeah.
Except when the first time I called him or something.
And then he's like, "Who are you talking to?"
Yeah.
Show some respect.
Which Sergio are you looking for?
It's easier just to call them by their gimmick. Plus, there's so many guys with similar names too nowadays.
This is true.
James and Rob.
A whole lot of them out of there.
Yeah.
That's why I remember Brian Alvarez once said, like, I can never remember the name Kurt Brown. And I said, of course you can't. It's the most bland, innocuous name you could ever have. Why do you think I came up with Vandal Drummond? One, because I'm a bit delusional. And two, it just sounds so much cooler.
Well, I always assumed Kurt Brown was just your nick, your gimmick. Like, that wasn't how that I always assumed you had a different name.
It was my blandest, incredibly strange wrestling gimmick ever, was Kurt Brown.
Kurt Brown was like, oh, that's his gimmick right there, Kurt Brown.
Yeah, whenever I say Kurt Brown, whenever I say my name out loud, all I can picture is a cartoon character named Lucy saying, "That blockhead Charlie Brown." Just Kurt Brown has that same almost sarcastic edge to it.
Uh-huh.
Now, what if I called you Pierre?
Now, that would rock.
Or Nikita?
Well, I wasn't Nikita.
Wait, you weren't Nikita. I'm sorry. You're right. You were Baby Bitch Drummond, and you teamed with
yes.
Right.
Yeah, La Femme Nikita Koloff was our late friend Larry Doyle, and he would love it if everybody remembers him as either Nikita or the No Mercy Man.
Hey, Kurt, what do the luchadors call you? I've never actually figured what they called you. They call you Kurt, right? They just call you Kurt.
Well, not Piloto Nuclear. I'm going old school. Piloto Suicida calls me Cuñado.
Yeah, they call you like Cuñado or Compadre.
Yeah, which is brother-in-law in Spanish. And that's because when I first knew him and his brother Mercurio, they would always say, "Hey, tell your sister we said hi." And so that was the ongoing joke, and finally I became his brother-in-law.
Right? You never got it, right? Or did you get it afterwards?
Oh, I got it the first time they said it.
Oh, okay.
That reminds me, after over a decade, I finally bought the DVDs from Bob Barnett that has the Eddie Guerrero Piloto Suicida match.
Oh wow, I only saw that once years ago, and it was on like a really bad quality tape. It looked like a good match though.
Yeah, it was like one of those tapes I always wanted from him, and I just never got it. And then I was buying some stuff from him because he had a sale like a month or so back, and I haven't watched the match yet, but I'm thinking, wait, why don't I finally just get that one? The Best LA Lucha.
If I remember right, I think Chavo was in his corner. It was right around the time Chavo Jr. started.
Yeah, and also, some of it I don't think was shot by Bob, because some of it's better quality than the other ones, but I didn't realize, because it was from the days where I don't think he'd put up a full match list, and he just copied everything over. Uh-huh. It has the whole Santo, Onita, etc. show. I didn't know that he taped the whole show. I knew he taped the main event. I didn't know he taped the whole show.
That was one of the most enjoyable times I ever had at a live show. Especially that main event of Hijo de Santo, Horace Boulder. I'm sorry, I'm getting the teams mixed up.
Santo, Onita, and Goto against Negro Casas, Horace Boulder, and Tim Patterson.
Yes. That was such a fun match. I enjoyed that immensely.
Is Horace Boulder still alive?
Yes.
Oh, good.
It's his dad that's not.
Who is it?
It's Hogan's brother died of a drug overdose.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I guess it's Horace. I think Hogan only had one brother. I guess it's Horace's little brother is doing MMA.
Oh.
That's what I heard recently is in the Boulder family.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember.
And it was, and Mike Awesome was related. That's why he thought Horace was dead.
Yeah.
Mike Awesome was related.
Yeah,
Mike Awesome was Horace's cousin.
Well, there's so many guys who died from that time period that I figured he was dead already. So
that was, I think, via Hogan's brother's. I think Hogan's brother's wife was the aunt of Mike Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Tony Halme died too recently, didn't he?
Who?
That Tony Halme,
Yeah, he just died. Yeah, apparently another suicide, of course.
Yes.
After just talking about Mike Awesome. Yeah.
And from what a story I read on him, I guess it didn't sound like a huge surprise.
Well, yeah, it looked like he had a lot of substance problems and then memory problems. So he had a lot of.
Yeah, he died a long time ago.
Now,
I actually thought he died like years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably because he just disappeared from the scene so quickly.
Yeah, I always assumed he was one of the, back, a couple of years ago, a bunch of guys were just dropping every single week. I was like, man, I didn't think he was still alive. Crazy.
Did you read the Observer bio on him yet?
No, I haven't.
It's awesome.
Oh, well, I should be reading it.
It's just so much ridiculousness with him.
Oh, yeah?
Well, the story I read on him said how he had a good opportunity to train at MMA, but just wouldn't show up to the sessions or the lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounded like there was actually some sort of potential with that guy, but he was just this loose cannon, and then not in a Brian Pillman kind of way, in a way that just sent him in all the wrong directions at all the wrong times.
Well, I wonder how he got into wrestling.
Oh, yes.
Herb Abrams.
I remember when. In fact, I remember Stefan De Leon did a job to him in one of Herb Abrams' shows.
Oh wait, you know what? I want to ask you something. Just before I forget, I apologize for interrupting.
No problem.
I'll forget otherwise.
That's fine.
Who was Davey Meltzer on that first UWF taping? Who did they give the gimmick to?
I can't remember the guy's name, but he was somebody who was trained by Billy Anderson at Slammers.
Okay.
And I remember hearing the night of the show he didn't want to do the gimmick, and they pretty much told him, well, you're doing the gimmick or you're not working tonight, and so he did it. And he was if I remember right, he's kind of a delusional character who, thought you'd just get into the business and to make a name for yourself and you make a lot of money. But this is what other people said indirectly about the guy. I never actually met him myself. But yeah, on that show, Stefan De Leon did a job to Tony Halme. I can't remember what name he was using.
Viking.
The Viking, okay. And he said he was nervous because I guess Halme had a reputation for being really stiff, and he said he didn't feel a thing in the match. And I don't remember a lot more about Tony Halme. I mean, I didn't really watch much wrestling, at least not much WWF wrestling during the Ludwig Borga era.
Yeah. I actually knew more from New Japan than from WWF.
And
I never really
I could swear I saw him in one of the MMA events, but it's a vague memory. I must have seen the Couture match. All I can remember is saying, "Oh, that dude was a worker."
Yeah, he had the Couture fight. Meltzer said he had another fight for some other promotion that I don't remember, like World Fighting Federation. That I don't remember anything about, and it's not on the
pay-per-view.
Well, no, it's not on his record, and then he doesn't mention it in his record.
Interesting.
He says that the only fight was the Couture one because his record also lists his matches in rings, which were works. But anyway, He was on the Sugar Ray Leonard Fight Zone pay-per-view, which I know was a work. I don't know if those got confused or if that was...
When was that?
That was the early UFC era. It was some... I never saw it. I think Bob has a tape of it, and I always kind of wanted to because it looked really terrible.
It's interesting because, I do watch UFC, and the first thing that I will confess to everybody is I am bad at telling, discussing it on an educational level. There will be times I see a punch that looks like it just absolutely rocked the other fighter, and Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg would say, like, that didn't do any damage. Or then there'll be little, elbows or punches that I barely even noticed, and they said, oh, he's got him in trouble. But it's a matches from those early UFC days, and seeing such a glaring difference of skill level from them and now. I mean, I can't remember. They were showing one of those greatest knockout shows, and I remember they showed a match where Tank Abbott knocked somebody out effortlessly because the guy didn't even have his guard up.
John Matua?
I honestly don't remember.
Was the one where the guy goes into convulsions and then Tank makes one of him?
Oh, God, no, I would have remembered that.
Kurt, did you ever
All I remember is I'm saying, why doesn't that guy have his hands up? And
Kurt, did you ever watch Rings on that Spanish channel?
No, never did.
You never did? That's pretty cool, though. That was the only mixed martial arts, the closest thing to mixed martial arts I ever watched.
You got Rings on Spanish TV. Actually, wait, I think I heard of that, but...
Yeah. I think Bob has it on tape.
Well, you've seen my reviews on the UFC shows. I love watching it in a pure fantastical level. I have to totally remove reality from it, or I'm not going to enjoy it. I can't analyze it too much. Or not that I can't. I won't. I don't want to go through the effort of trying to understand a whole new sport.
I just noticed Tony Halme's his obit is really long.
Well, even though he didn't make a big splash in the wrestling biz, it does sound like an interesting life story. And
I need to watch his match with Volkan. I'm sure that's interesting.
That would be interesting, yes.
Yeah.
I remember right when you're getting on the line, I was Bixie. I was starting to talk about the most recent Ras de Lona show. Now, Fredo,
I'm a few weeks behind.
What's that?
I'm a few weeks behind on Ras de Lona.
Yeah, I usually am, but I was able to take a little time to watch part of it at work today. And
how far behind are you? You're only about a week, aren't you? It's just a week, right?
Me?
Yeah.
Me? I caught.
You're not that off because of the best of shows.
Yeah, I'm.
You're caught out.
Yeah, this was the second best of show. I saw part of the first one. I really enjoyed this one because it was fun watching Jushin Liger interviewed in heel mode.
Uh-huh.
And clips of the Negro Casas Mystico match, which I hope to see all of soon. I have not seen that match yet. And, Fredo, what would make you watch Ras de Lona? Which wrestler?
Strongman.
What's that?
Strongman, right?
Strongman, exactly. They had Strongman on there. I think it's the only time I've been a mark for a bodybuilder. I love the promos he cuts. I love how he just puts over Mexico. On this promo on the show, he declares Mexico is the greatest nation in the world. This guy rocks.
Isn't it funny how CMLL can just pretty much not push or like do anything with any of their local guys, any of the guys from Mexico. But Strongman, they can actually do something with.
Yes. And what is it about him? I look forward to the next Strongman.
You know what
whether
it
it's
is
an interview, the next Strongman feature. I look forward to it. Whether it's an interview, whether it's a match, I'm ready to watch a Strongman Iron Man match. I'll do it just for him.
You know what it is? You know what it is about him? It's that he's the only person there that has that look, and he actually, he could actually they could showcase him pretty much, as opposed to having like 5 other guys. You don't have KrisZ Masters over here. You don't have like another guy who kind of is built. It's just Strongman.
This is true.
Big, big guy there.
Well, even in WWE, you don't really have anyone who looks quite like him.
Yeah,
that's true.
But the funny thing is, if he went to WWE, he'd be lost in the shuffle right away. We're here, and I dig his promos. I love the way this entire promo put over CMLL, the people of Mexico, the nation, everything. It reminds me of old 1970s babyface promos, like, when somebody from England would come to L.A. and like, oh my God, I love America, I never want to leave. And then Gene LaBelle would say something like, oh, no more fish and chips for you, you're eating hot dogs from now on, right?
And a wow.
Wow! Oh, God, I love Camp. I love Camp. And John Strongman is modern-day Camp.
Yeah, that promo we did about the bus company.
Yeah. Okay, he's eligible for Rookie of the Year.
Is he?
I think he is.
Okay, you got to vote for him.
I haven't voted yet. Do we know when the deadline is for?
I don't know.
It probably already passed.
Oh, I hope not. Shame on me. Okay, that's the one thing I'm going to vote for.
You know when it is? I think it's today.
No.
Rookie of the Year, John Strongman.
Isn't it the 14th?
14th? Yeah.
I think it might be the 14th.
Well, you guys are on the West Coast. You still have 4 hours.
Yeah. You could email.
Okay, I'm emailing it to Meltzer tonight.
I'm pretty sure you don't have to vote for every category. So you can just say, "Here's my ballot: Rookie of the Year, Strongman."
I've never been so jazzed over a wrestler who is just so heavy on the juice. Could probably not wrestle much of an Iron Man match, but I'd still watch it anyways. This guy rocks.
What would be funny if they actually put like a drug testing program in CMLL? What would happen?
I would love that. If they added it to the storyline, and still kept him a baby face.
Fails drug test 3rd time.
But it's the promotion that has an annual bodybuilding contest. So.
I know. See, that's why it's so funny, because it's part. That's the one place where there's not going to do that. They're There's no thought of that ever happening because of the body.
Yeah. When I watch the show Ras de Lona, I am in thorough agreement with Steve Sims. That is the best produced TV show. It makes me want to watch lots of CMLL. And I know if I saw the full... how long is their standard TV show that we usually don't see?
For CMLL? Like 1
hour,
probably.
I think it's 3 hours now.
What?
3 hours, I think.
The CMLL show is like 1 hour. I mean, there's 4 or 5 of them. So
he means the main television show, I think.
Yeah, it's only like 90 minutes.
Oh, really? I remember reading got bumped up to 3 hours now.
No, it only does that once in a while.
Oh, okay.
Because I bet you if I was watching the whole 90-minute show, I'd say, okay, I'm getting burned down on this. But this half-hour, magazine-style Ras de Lona show makes me want more CMLL. They do a great job of stuffing a lot into 30-minute segments.
And the weird thing is they're the ones that produce the Guerrero del Ring show, the one that you used to watch on Fox Sports or on LA.
Yes.
And it just doesn't look. It doesn't have the same feel. Like the 1 hour show just doesn't have the same feel.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it's almost like whoever's producing it must know how to do more with less time, and the more time he has, the less he knows what to do with it. Maybe that's just a guess.
Now if you want to watch the most boring lucha show, watch Sobre el Ring.
Which one's that?
It's like this talk show.
Oh.
Where they interview the luchadors, but it's just Javier Yanez interviewing like various wrestlers. And it just comes off like really boring.
Just bland.
Yeah, it's just bland.
And probably even more boring for me since my Spanish is so terrible.
Yeah.
Javier Yanez is really good with with another person hosting, but like on his own, it's really bad. Like, have you ever seen the UWE shows?
I watched a little bit of the one with the Navarro Rambo tag.
Yeah, I mean, the show, like, him by himself, he just really sounds boring. Like, the announcing.
Interesting.
With somebody else, it's not. It's still a little bit more passable.
It has a little something to work with there.
It's not Ras de Lona or anything.
Yeah, Ras de Lona rocks.
Yeah. Wrestling really needs more magazine-type shows. When you think about it, they've all been good.
I agree. I agree. The more time a wrestling show has, it seems the weaker it comes off.
It's so weird because, I remember WWF used to do, like, try to do shows like that.
Well, theirs weren't good. Yeah, theirs were not good.
They weren't good, and in Lucha,
everyone else though.
Yeah, Lucha used to do really bad ones too, but this is like the first one of the most recent shows that is actually really good. Actually, there's another show called Tercera Caída that's pretty good too, but they show more WWF. Actually, that would be the show that America would probably want because they cover WWE, Lucha, Japan, everything.
Yeah, Pro Wrestling This Week, of course, was great.
Yeah,
that was a fun one. My favorite feature on that was whenever they showed Japanese wrestlers, and if they didn't know who they were, they would say, "This is Tatsumi Fujinami."
I think I had like 4 or 5 different Tatsumi Fujinamis just based off that.
Exactly, and I always wondered, okay, if they ever show a match with 2 Japanese wrestlers who both wore black trunks and boots, will they say this is Tatsumi Fujinami taking on Tatsumi Fujinami?
I guess they could call the other one Inoki.
That's true.
You know the funniest thing? I remember seeing Super Black Ninja. Remember Muta's first gimmick?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Super Black Ninja in World Class or one of those places. And I thought, is that Tatsumi Fujinami? Is that Tatsumi Fujinami? Then there was Masahiro Chono also down the road.
I also remember on the Pro Wrestling This Week they referred to Shiro Koshinaka as the White Panther because they wore white pants.
Did they ever respond? Did they ever comment on his that one move he always does?
The hip attack.
Yeah, the hip attack.
I loved that. That was awesome.
Hip.
And that it could get over in Japan. That's what I loved about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about rounds up the time we have for tonight. Dixie Demon, thank you as always for calling in.
You're welcome. I actually wanted to ask about one thing, though, before we go.
Go for it.
Okay, because you might remember this because you had all the newsletters back then, and it ties into a few things we mentioned, plus some stuff recently and that you talked about. So how did Dr. Death Steve Williams get on The Tonight Show as UWF champion when he was working for Herb Abrams?
I have no idea.
I mean, what was it like when that happened? What was the reaction?
I have to be honest, it's weird. I don't remember him appearing on The Tonight Show, which sounds strange because, you know, I didn't follow Herb Abrams wrestling or anything like that, but I was following the newsletters week by, you know, I never took a vacation from the newsletter, so I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on that.
I remember reading about it years later, and I was like, huh?
I remember Hacksaw Duggan and somebody else appearing on some show when they were trying to put over, I think, UWFI and was it? Oh, who was it? One of the fighters in UWFI came on the show.
That was the pre-show infomercial thing. I think I remember seeing that.
Okay, I remember that, but no, I honestly, I hate to say I'm drawing a blank, but I'm drawing a complete blank on that one.
Okay,
so we need people to inform us.
As you mentioning the late night wars, and then Abrams UWF coming up, and then Dr. Death dying a few weeks ago. I was like, oh wait, why didn't we see it? Why don't I see if Kurt knows about this?
That is totally Now I'm curious, totally curious.
I remember it was Gary Albright, Jim Duggan, and Lou Duva, I think, as the boxing representative.
Oh, okay.
And the tagline was, "It's not boxing, it's not wrestling, it's shoot wrestling."
Real. And back then, probably half the audience was, "What the hell's a shoot?" Okay, well, thank you, Dixie Demon, and
you are welcome.
Fredo, thank you as always, the guy who puts together this show and keeps it going. All I do is phone in, and
the guy who planned earlier in the morning to do this show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool about it, I do believe.
Well, that's the good thing about Blog Talk Radio. You could schedule a show at any point in time.
Exactly. I dig it.
But you can at any point in time? Because when I tried to sign up just for the heck of it, they gave very limited hours.
Yeah, the first time they gave us a limited time. I think the first show we did was like at 8, wasn't it, Kurt?
Yes, it was.
Because Kurt was here, but when we were scheduling the first show, they would only give us 8 p.m. and after.
You're on academic probation until you can prove yourself.
Yeah, I think after the first show you could do it earlier.
Yes. Well, thank you guys, and
oh, great.
You can tell it's getting late at night because I'm having trouble conjuring up the question.
Something when you look into the sky.
Yes, and I guess that's not a question, is it? It's a statement.
Oh, right.
If you're in Southern California and you look up into the sky and you see a bright light streaking across the night sky, it is not a shooting star. It is a heavenly handful of what?
Monsel's powder.
Monsel's powder.
Damn it, Fredo.
I never say it.
You left Dixie to scream it on his own. Yeah, Monsel's powder flying through the galaxy. See you all next week, my babies. Take care.